Do you enjoy watercolour but you find it difficult to control the water or the pigment? Well, I've got some tips for you today. Hey crafty people, it's Tasha, welcome back to my channel. If you like this video, I'd love it if you could give it a thumbs up, and if you aren't already, then please consider subscribing below. I'm showing you the supplies that I'm going to be using today. I'm using lots of different Altenew products. So I've got the angled mosaic 3D embossing folder, the statement flowers stamp set. I've got some watercolour markers in the colours Warm Sunshine, Rouge and Autumn Blaze. Then I've got some Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I am going to be stamping and embossing the flowers using Wow's ink pad and their black embossing powder. So I've put some of the pigment onto this palette that I've got. It's just a piece of white paper that I laminated and I use as a palette. So I've put some of each of the colours onto the palette, and then I'm just taking some of the rouge pigment and placing it at the bottom, at the base of the petal. I am lifting the paint from my palette with the black paintbrush that I have in my hands, dropping that in where I want the darkest or most concentrated colour to be, which in this case is the bottom base of the petal, and then I am using the other paintbrush that I have there to bring some clean and clear water across to help disperse some of that pigment a little bit. So I've got rouge at the base of the petal, and I'm adding the Warm Sunshine there to the tip of the petal. Then with the clean clear water, I'm just manipulating those pigments a little bit so that they mix nicely together in the middle. Decided to add a little bit more rouge because I felt like I wanted that colour to be a little bit stronger. It had been kind of overtaken by the Warm Sunshine a little bit. So moving on to the second petal, I decided to do it slightly different here in that I am wetting the whole of the petal before I start, which I didn't do with the first one, and I think that's why I had to sort of zhuzh at the pigment a little bit more to get it to mix. So yeah, I've just added the water first, but other than that I am doing the same steps with the two brushes and the same colours. Using those two brushes is a really brilliant way of making sure that you don't get too much pigment in at any one time, because you are adding a small amount of pigment on one brush, and then you've always got a clean clear water brush that you can sort of tease that pigment out with. You know, when we're watercolouring, we want that difference between the light and the dark, and that variation in colour. That's the beauty of watercolour, but sometimes it's a bit difficult to achieve that if you have too much paint on your brush. So having the two brushes, brilliant way to solve that. The other thing that I've done that really helped is embossing the image, because those embossed lines, they create they're like walls or dams that hold all that water and pigment in, which just make it so much easier. It's just, yeah, it's loads easier. I find it much more enjoyable. So yeah, I'm speeding up the rest of the painting because you don't need to see each petal. I'm doing them all the same. The only difference is on that other flower, I changed up the colours a little bit, and I'm adding the Autumn Blaze to the base of the petals and Rouge to the tips, just to give a little bit of a differentiation and variation in colour between the two flowers. So while I'm painting there, I want to talk to you a little bit about the hop that I'm part of today. Basically, it's a hop that I set up from the AECP Facebook group that we have for the participants and educators. And yeah, it's just a really nice group where we can help each other, support each other, and be cheerleaders for each other, and I decided that it might be nice as a way for us to get to know each other, for us to do a hop. So I chose a case theme. I will have in more detail what the term case means below and in my blog post. But basically, we each were given another participant of the hop, and we've gone on there, looked through their work, and found something that we found inspired us. And then we are each creating something inspired by that person or that creation or whatever it may be. And I was lucky enough to get my dear friend Jo Herbert as the person that I was going to be casing, and I chose this creation that Jo made. I have changed things up a bit. I've used different colours and a different stamp set, but what what inspired me was the watercolour technique that Jo used, which is where she employs the two brushes, and she also does the embossing, which I love. And yeah, I just thought using the two brushes was just genius. So that inspired me massively. Just hopping back just very quickly to what I'm doing there in the video, watercolouring is about layers. So once I'd finished the first layer and made sure that everything was completely bone dry, I've gone back in with some more concentrated colour to add like into the shadows and things where the petals creased, and where one petal lays on top of another, just the same colour over itself, but just more concentrated to give that variation of colour. So I chose different colour scheme than the one that Jo employed, because my colour choices were kind of inspired by Jo as a person. She's an incredibly warm and kind and generous soul, and she lives in Australia as well, so she makes me think of warm colours and sunshine, so I wanted to put that across in my make today of casing her. So yeah, that's what I did. And I didn't have the same stamp set that Jo used in her video that I'm casing, but I chose this one because this is one of my favourite Altenew stamp sets. I love it. I've painted it many times, and I'm sure I will paint it many more. And I'm interested to know, what is your favourite Altenew product? So I'd love if you could tell me your favourite in the comments below. While I'm just adding some pencil crayon detail into my finished painting, now would be a good time for you to hop down below and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and if you're enjoying this video, then give me a thumbs up. So I'm just adding some brown into the centre of the flower, and then I will fussy cut it out. I don't have the die, but I don't think this one's too difficult to fussy cut. Just showing you there the colours that I've used for the leaves and the centre of the flowers. So now we're going to move on to the background. I loved that Jo had got her beautiful flowers on a dark background, so that's what I'm going to emulate here. So I've got an A2 sheet of grey cardstock and the Angled Mosaic 3D embossing folder. Then I'm just taking here a distress sprayer, and I'm just spritzing a little bit of water onto the paper. Not to the point that the paper's wet. We don't want it to be wet. Basically what I'm doing is I prefer to sort of mist into the air and waft the paper through that mist. Just give the tiniest bit of moisture, and that will just help loosen the fibres of the paper, so that it is able to take on the detail that's in this folder, take on the detail a little bit better. And look at that, it's come out perfect, no cracks, and beautiful detail. I love that embossing folder. So I've now grabbed out my splat box, which is just an old shoebox, just to keep my workspace tidy. My workspace isn't tidy, but to keep my workspace clean from paint splatter, that would be more appropriate and honest. And I'm taking the Altenew metallic watercolors, and I add a little bit of water, let that water sit in there for a few minutes. That's the best way to make sure that you really wake up all that pigment and mica and yummy, scrummy deliciousness. And then, yeah, I'm just splattering on a few gold splatters. I added my flowers onto my background, pop them up on foam tape to give some dimension, because dimension is life, and I like to have some dimension and texture in my creations. And then I just stamped out a sentiment, which is from another Altenew stamp set, and I'm trying to remember which one, and I don't know, but I will have it linked below. I stamped that out with the obsidian black pigment ink, and yeah, I'm just gonna pop that up. The sentiment was also inspired by Joe, sending warm hugs and sunshine, or sunshine and warm hugs. So yeah, I just felt that was very appropriate. So as I said before, this is a hop. I will have the link to the next person on the hop down below in my description box, and also at my blog post. I really do hope that you go through and check out all of the different posts in the hop. I can't wait personally myself to see what everybody's made. I'm really excited. Show the people some love, leave them some comments, thumbs up. Some of them are blog posts and some of them will be videos, so you'll sort of be going back and forth between YouTube and various blogs, I think. But I will have the full lineup linked on my blog post so that you don't miss anybody. As I said before, if you like this video, I'd love it if you could give it a thumbs up. If you aren't already subscribed, then hitting that subscribe button would mean the world to me. I hope that you have a lovely, happy, safe, wonderful week. Stay crafty, guys. Bye.